Lately, the temperature of the Earth is increasing, so people are paying attention to global warming. It's November now, but the weather is not that cold. The reason for the increase in the temperature of the Earth is that as it becomes urbanized, greenhouse gas increase, and forests are destroyed. As the temperature of the Earth rises, there is a lot of damage. As the Earth's temperature rises, dying animals and temperature rise, but it does not rain, causing damage to crops that are drying up. Animals that live in trees can stand the heat of the sun and live on the ground or fail and die. For example, the hotter the global environment, the more monkeys come down from trees and spend time on the ground, and bats are also falling and dying from trees because of the hot environment. Experts say that human beings are hindering animals from adapting to climate change. People are starting to make a lot of effort to prevent global warming because of the damage. Now let's take a closer look at the cause of the rising temperature of the Earth and the solution. How does drought relate to global warming?
Just as climate change has worsened many extreme weather events, it has also impacted droughts. The excess heat now tripped in the climate system. Droughts out more moisture from soils. Trigger worsening drought conditions. Reduced snowpack volumes, earlier snow melt, and changing precipitation patterns also are linked to climate change, exacerbate the water stress. And induced by droughts and for numerous individual events across the world, scientists have attributed increased likelihood and severity of droughts to human-driven climate change. Droughts are often defined as periods of relative dryness and reduced soil moisture. Although droughts can be influenced by water management and land use practices, climate-related factors such as rainfall and evaporation are determining dryland conditions. Today's climate change, driven by increased emissions of heat-trapping gases, is playing a major role in the increasing severity of droughts through its influences on both rainfall and evaporations.
It's said that the crops are being damaged by the drought, and in what form are they being damaged?
Well, from staple crops like potatoes and maize to cash crop for wealthier customers like cacao and coffee, climate change is having widespread impact on global agricultural products. There is growing consensus that climate change is already affecting crops and yields and food security, but not all crops are equally at risk. While researchers warn that overall crop yields will decrease due to a warming climate, changing rainfall patterns, and several weather, surprisingly, some crops may see yield increases.
The higher the temperature of the Earth, the animals are damaged. So can you tell me a few things about which animals are damaged?
Sure. Actually, so many animals being damaged by global warming, and some of them moose and salmon, snowshoe hares, American pigeons, sea turtles, and name it. Let's take an example. For example, polar bears in many ways have become the symbol of climate change. In 2008, they were listed as a threatened species and endangered species act. And the first species to be listed because of forecasted population declines from the effects of climate change. The primary case of their decline, loss of sea ice habitat attributed to Arctic warming. Polar bears need sea ice to hunt seals and main source of food as well as to move across the large home ranges. They need for foraging habitat. Polar bears aren't alone in feeling the effect of shrinking sea ice. Walruses and other Arctic species are facing similar challenges as summer sea ice continues to retreat.
Thank you for visiting us and sharing your professional opinion.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
As the temperature of the Arctic and Antarctic rise due to global warming, the ice area is rapidly shrinking. As a result of analyzing the actual condition of glaciers, it was found that about 270 billion tons of glaciers have melted and turned into water every year for 20 years in the 21st century. This is the amount that amounts for 1/5 of global sea level rise, the researchers said in Nature. Also, over the past 20 years, glaciers have melted about 267 gigatons a year. This is an amount that can be filled to a height of 3 meters per year, even if distributed evenly throughout island. He added that the rate of glacier melting is accelerating at a rate of 48 gigatons per year on a 10 years basis. It was also said that it was related to abnormal climate occurring on Earth. What will happen if glaciers melt due to global warming? And how can we prevent global warming normally? Let's invite an expert and listen to their opinions. Okay, I heard that the Arctic and Antarctic ice melted a lot. How serious is the situation?
Well, the effects of climate change are not the same in the Arctic and Antarctic. While almost 75% of Arctic sea ice has disappeared, the state of the sea ice in Antarctic seems stable, at least for now. The primary difference between the Arctic and Antarctic is geographical. The Arctic is an ocean covered by a thin layer of perennial sea ice and surrounded by land. Perennial refers to the oldest and thickest sea ice. Antarctica, on the other hand, is a continent covered by a very thick ice cap and surrounded by a rim of sea and Southern Ocean. The Arctic Ocean is very deep and closely linked with the climate system around it, making it more sensitive to climate changes than Antarctica. The effects of climate change are not the same in all parts of the world. The planet average temperature has risen a little more than 1 Celsius degree since the start of the industrial era. Our planet's polar regions, however, are warming faster than other places. In these regions, temperature rose about 2 Celsius degree. In the Arctic, and between 1 Celsius and 1.5 Celsius degree in Antarctica.
How can we prevent global warming on a daily basis?
Worthy of being concerned about, since recent research confirms that children born in 2020 will face an average of 2 to 7 times more extreme weather and climate events than their grandparents. That means more heat waves, flooding, droughts, crop failures, and wildfires. There is no one-size-fits-all approach to stop or slowing global warming. And each individual, business, municipal, state, tribal, and federal entity must weigh their options in light of their own unique set of circumstances. experts say it is likely many strategies working together will be needed. Generally speaking, here are some examples of mitigation strategies we can use to slow or to stop the human-caused global warming. Where possible, we can switch to renewable sources of energy, such as solar or wind energy, to power our homes and buildings, thus emitting far less heat-trapping gases into the atmosphere. Where feasible, we can drive electric vehicles instead of those that burn fossil fuels, or we can use mass transit instead of driving our own cars. Where affordable, we can conserve energy by better insulating our homes and buildings, and by replacing old, failing appliances with more energy-efficient models. Where practicable, we can counterbalance our annual carbon dioxide emissions by investing in commercial services that draw down an equal amount of carbon out of the atmosphere, such as through planting trees or carbon capture and storage techniques. Where practical, we can support more local businesses that use and promote sustainable, climate-smart practices, such as those listed above. We can consider placing an upper limit on the amount of carbon dioxide we will allow ourselves to emit into the atmosphere within a given time frame.
Okay, thank you for your opinion. The earth is a public good, not private property.
We must keep it clean and take good care of it so that we can pass it on to our future children.
That's all for the news. Thank you for watching.